Everyone, and welcome to today's build guide. I'm going to be covering Sir Ector. Sir Ector is one of the first heroes you can recruit in the game and the first Arcanist you recruit in the game. A lot of people tend to ditch him once they get farther into the game and they start unlocking more Arcanists, and I am one of them. Usually just put him up in the tower to generate that relic dust and forget about him. This is generally because, out of all of them, at base, he is definitely the weakest Arcanist. He has very little in the way of debuffing and crowd control that many other Arcanists have through their active skills beyond just their hexes. And this, in combination with his spells not really being as powerful offensively either as a lot of these later Arcanists, he just really falls off. He is a fire-based Arcanist, like Merlin, so that means he is capable of similar damage type builds as Merlin. If you've seen my Merlin build, then you already kind of know what's coming, and this is fairly similar to that. Obviously, between the two, Merlin will still be the stronger choice, as they will have very similar damage outputs, but Merlin will then obviously have the higher crowd control and debuff capability. Ector is largely the Arcanist you're going to be using on a Christian Tyrant run, or just Christian runs in general if you want to use an Arcanist and not have loyalty issues. But a lot of people sometimes just opt out of using an Arcanist altogether because of this. But you'll see here with this build, if you keep him around and you get the right pieces, he can become an amazing damage dealer. And this build is pretty much just damage dealing, because as I mentioned before, he has pretty much no debuffing or crowd control outside of the standard hexes, so it's like okay at base, because every Arcanist is at least okay in this regard. This is mostly a damage-oriented build. Now, with all of that established, let's just start getting into the build. Beginning with essences. The first one here is the Essence of Resilience. It's +2 injury tokens. This is mostly an early game pick. If you're playing on very hard, it's very easy to take vitality damage, and being an Arcanist, he's very frail, so I thought it would be very useful to keep him out of the Cathedral. There's other picks you can kind of go with here if you don't want this one, such as making him more resistant to debuffs, or giving him Spellcraft. You can see he has 4 Spellcraft without the Essence on his own because he does have +1 Spellcraft from his trait. If you're taking the Spellcraft boosting talents fairly early, you can hit all the Spellcraft checks without any issue, and therefore you don't really need that Essence. The most important one, though, is the Essence of Conflagration, plus 20% burning damage. As this is a burn build, this is extremely important. These other two are just very standard. I take them on pretty much any Arcanist build I'm going to run. The Essence of Speed for +1 AP. Arcanists are using like a dozen moves every round, cycling through all their spells and spamming them out. This just enables you to get 1 extra spell in a turn. Essence of Observation is +1 to range. Range characters, more range is always really good on them. This way they don't have to waste AP on moving. Now for gear, this is a pretty gear-specific build. The armor, not as much. I just have something defensive on him. I have Abel's Greater Sigil, 52 HP and 3 armor, but he can only lose 1 armor per hit, so this is just some good tankiness on him. This with the magical armor pretty much guarantees that those first 2 hits, he's never going to take any damage off of them. This gives the extra injury token here, which is why he has 3, when Arcanists by default have 0, so that's why it's 3 instead of 2. The staff, while not super integral, is a very large contributor, so if you find this one something you want to hold on to, and it is not the Summer Staff, it is the Firebrand rune. This has +7 burning damage, which is great, we want that. +2 burning duration, also great, we want that, and +9 damage for Fire Blast. Ector is a Fire Blast user. This is the primary spell you're going to be using, so extra damage for the initial hit is also great. For his jewelry, I have the Astral Ring. This is +2 tile ranges for range skills, so now he just has +3 range, so he's just absurd. He's going to be slinging spells from across the map. +8 damage against units that are at least 6 tiles away. Very easy to hit, especially with this insane range. +8 damage while disengaged, and +10 damage while attacking from behind cover. That one you don't really get very often, but those other two, +16, this is a huge base damage increase to his fire spells, so that increases the burn damage, which increases the main focus of this last item here. And you're probably wondering, there's no Summer Staff. If you've seen my Merlin build, how is this gonna be crazy? Well, that's because there's 2 items that have the effect of the Summer Staff. Immolated One's Lament. You can see here that first effect, the Wild Magic, cast 8 spells, triggers all the burning damage at once. Just like the Summer Staff, only this one is on an artifact. And for Ector specifically, I think this is the better version. Because of this, we can take the Firebrand rune for that extra Fire Blast damage. The Summer Staff does not boost Fire Blast damage, if I remember correctly, but it still offers the Great Burning bonus and the Burning Duration bonus. On top of that, it also has minus 1 AP for Blood Hex, which would normally be useless for someone like Merlin because he doesn't have hexes, but Ector does have Blood Hex, so this is great for him, and the +2 burning duration. You could, of course, get the Summer Staff, use it on Ector, and that's fine, but I really do think that this item combination here is pretty much as close to optimal as you can possibly get for Ector and his damage potential. Now, going into his skills, there's a lot of stuff I'm sure you're familiar with that you see on pretty much all of the Arcanists. We're trying to build up hex intensity. You can see his isn't very high, it's only 55%, which is not bad, but that's fairly low for what a lot of other Arcanists are capable of getting. So you're going to take the Master of Hexes, and you're going to take this quick casting upgrade, reduce the cost of all hexes by 1, and then this means you do not need to take the AP cost reduction on slowing hex, because now it's already at 1, so that does free up an extra skill point. We're increasing base damage, we're increasing range, we're taking all the hexes because we're going to be spamming those. That's what we're going to be using to be cycling our spells as much as possible. Increasing hex intensity where available. Putting vulnerability on this is useful, so that way you can do some extra damage to them. Reducing the cooldowns wherever available. Of course, we're taking Mindstorm and Spell Power, but the main things that are unique to him is Fire Blast. This is your damage move. You can see the insane 13 range on this. And we're taking all the upgrades because we want it to be cheap, we want it to have extra damage, and we want it to have burning. This is the most important one. And then just extra damage as they're standing in it. Anything to sort of weaken them, to make it so the Wild Magic proc will try and guarantee a kill as much as possible. Especially with the newest patch, enemies have more health now, so this is more important to get as much chip damage in as possible, so that way the Wild Magic proc will secure the kill. We have Wall of Flame. We use this very rarely, but it is a pretty useful ability in certain situations where enemies may not be grouped up in a way where we can hit them with the standard 3x3 Fire Blast, but with the 6-tile long Wall of Flame, we can. And with this upgrade, it does bring it up to 6 tiles. With burning, now they will get burned when they are hurt by Wall of Flame. And I took this Dark Flames ability as just so he has a little bit of crowd control. And you're going to be taking Master of Flame. This is also very important. It boosts all your fire damage by 10%, increase burning damage by 30%, burn duration by 1. So all of these synergize amazingly off of our item here. Extra weapon damage against burning targets, which also feeds into it. And then Wildfire. Reduce the cooldown on your fire skill so you can try and get the Fire Blast out more often. That's pretty much all the key components here. Let's go ahead and get into the gameplay so you can just see them light them up. For the first fight, I'm doing the Tamer, one of the new missions from the Chained God revamp of the endgame. You can see here, enemies have tons of health now, especially on very hard. 800 on this Beastman, 780 on the Shield Breaker. Huge amounts of health. And based on the numbers I've been playing with, our Wildfire proc is not going to outright kill one of them, but it will do a very substantial dent. So, first things first, let's go ahead and open up on this Beastman. Always open with Fire Blast to set the burning. Then we're just going to start cycling our hexes on him. And we have another spellcaster here with Morgoth who can kind of help churn out the spells a little bit faster. So, something like this. And we even have Mordred who's capable of throwing out some spells as well. And you can see 400 damage chunked off of him right there. I mean, Fomorians have a huge amount of health, So for most non-Valyrian enemies, that probably would have been a kill there. You can see 400, that's insane. If we had used our Death Hex, that may have even been a kill, but we'll get an opportunity for that on one of these other guys over this way. But for now, we'll actually just go ahead and chill and let them come at us. Okay, so let's go ahead and Death Hex you. Blood Hex. Fire Blast. Slowing Hex. Get back up on casting some spells. Something like this. Can I reach over here? Some of that. I need one more spell. So we only need one more, so we're just gonna use this even though it'll do nothing. And there you go, 371, 324. Oh, Soul Shard, we're gonna need to get that. We can send Black Knight over there, he can reach that. Wow, we can see a lot of them popping up. Alright, so you want to be careful with these soul fragments because I believe when you pick them up you get a debuff. You can see here, this one's Weakening Soul, this one is Exhausting Soul. Yeah, that's it. You lose all AP and become vulnerable for a turn. I think you lose AP. Yeah, you lose AP on all of them, so we'll go ahead and pick this up. He's pretty far out of the way, so he's safe. Yeah, 370 damage, though, to 2 targets at once. It's crazy. He's perfectly capable of being your team's primary damage dealer. And they put a stun on him, so yeah, that's understandable. But that's okay. We're going to keep casting spells even if he can't do any himself right now, because it still contributes to that counter and will just make it easier on his next turn to get his Wildfire proc off. Okay, cool. Next we're going to Fire Blast. We need 3. Not going to be able to get it this turn. We'll just pass. Slowing Hex, Blood Hex. We're actually going to do Wall of Fire here so we can get the burning, and our Fire Blast is on cooldown. And there you go, 336, 316. There you go. And that soul dropped for winning the fight, so we can just like pick it up like that after the combat. I mean, you saw we didn't have Black Knight hardly do anything. Ector was burning them down really efficiently. One last fight, as usual. Still more Fomorians. You can see we picked up a +2 max AP on him. There was a shrine. So I picked it up just, you can see how much of a difference 1 or 2 AP makes, and just how many extra spells it means we can cast. Just open up with a Fire Blast as usual. Start throwing out our hexes. That was like 400 health off of that Death Hex there. It's crazy good. We'll need one more, so we'll just do that. Boom, 2 down, 420, 351. 2 extra AP. We're just going to keep casting spells, though, because it keeps moving the counter. We'll move you up. I don't know, like Stigma on you, I guess. We're actually going to Ice Wall here. Make them go around. Which is good. Blood Hex. We're going to Fire Blast, get both of their spellcasters here, these Windmasters. And we're going to Firewall so we can get this Beast Man. And this is where Flame Wall comes in handy. You can see we're going to get 3 of these targets that we normally wouldn't be able to. Let's go ahead and put a Slow Hex on you. Dish out some spells. Move you over. Just casting spells for the sake of spells, you know how it goes. Boom, you can see the burn damage. I didn't quite catch the number. They were close to full health though, I believe, so just huge chunk off of him, huge chunk off of him. Hurricanes are no big deal. Drop another Fire Blast on them, get rid of the spellcasters. Let's put a Death Hex on you. Blood Hex, Slow Hex. She's out of spells. You are not. And there you go, 324, 324, both dead. And there you go. Ector just absolutely burning off hundreds of health from enemies at a time, and that death hex, especially with the new content update, the larger amounts of health that enemies have, is kind of a buff to death hex because it just means it's going to be shaving off even more health off of them due to it being percentile, and really helping you hit that breakpoint with Fire Blast to make sure that the wild magic proc off of it gets the kill. I mean, you saw it happen once or twice over the course of these fights. As you saw for yourself, Ector's capable of putting out hundreds of damage to multiple targets. He's capable of very easily spreading those burns around between Fire Blast and Wall of Fire. He has very cheap hexes, partially due to the help of the Immolated One's Lament, bringing the Blood Hex down to 2. That's a huge contributing factor. And, I mean, if you're running a team comp with another spellcaster, whether it be another Arcanist or even a Sage, or Morgoth, who's like some weird hybrid between the two, you can just get these burns popping off so quickly, like every single turn, basically. You're going to be racking up thousands of damage with Ector like it's nothing. And you saw the amount of HP increase that a lot of these enemies have, especially the Fomorians. You're going to be needing to be bringing some pretty heavy packing damage. It's a lot harder to just rely on a single damage dealer now. Whether you're playing a Christian run and Ector's really your only choice, or maybe you're doing an Old Faith run, just keep an eye out for these items, and I think you'll find that Ector may suddenly become a whole lot more useful and may even be carrying your runs for part of the playthrough and some of the acts. I hope you found the build enjoyable or helpful, give you something to maybe aim for and target with your own Ector and your own runs if you are so inclined, and thanks for watching.